My research paper is about Thailand and China as the partner for trade and sustainable development in mainland ASEAN. When I talk about mainland ASEAN, I mean Thailand, Laos, PDR, Cambodia, Myanmar, Vietnam, and the southern part of China, especially Zhuang Autonomous regions, Guangxi and Yunnan province of China. These research papers adapt some findings from my research project supported by International Institute for Trade and Development, which is the think tank belongs to the Ministry of Education in Thailand. I will talk in three main points. The mainland ASEAN, actually this is the place where the confrontations between major powers happens, and about the opportunities and challenge in these regions, which Professor Nguyen and some of us already mentioned about it in the morning sessions, and of course this part was already included in my paper that I presented last time when we held the first Nagai meeting last year. And then from the in-depth interview from focus group that our research team conduct throughout mainland ASEAN and in China, we come up with the conclusions on how to change from trust crisis into a trust building and propose a new development model to the regions. So this is the land that superpower outside mainland ASEAN see a lot of opportunities. Of course, from geopolitical economy point of view, this is the most important choke point that link between mainland ASEAN to South China Sea as well as to Indian Oceans. This is the choke point that link the two oceans together, and the volume of international trade, volume of international investment in these regions keep increasing year by year. The economic growth of these areas skyrockets. We call it emerging economies. Japan start that project, so-called GMS, Greater Mekong Sub-Region Economic Cooperation Program, since the early 1990s. And in the year 2009, it's confirmed these cooperations again by the so-called Mekong Japan Summit. For the US, during the times that Hillary Clinton was the Secretary of State, she proposed the so-called Lower Mekong Initiative with the 6 pillars of cooperation among US and some countries in mainland ASEAN. For China, of course, we see the big pictures of Itai Ilu or One Belt One Road initiative. The new proposal in the year 2014 talk a lot about Lanchang Mekong initiative, Lanchang Mekong corporations, Silk Road Fund, and of course another new game changers, Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank with the Silk Road Fund, and so many funds that will invest in terms of connectivities in this area. Another major power who also pay attention to this area is India. Right? India dropped their interest to join OBOR Forum, but also proposed a counter proposal, so-called Indo-Pacific Freedom Corporations, something like that. Hence, India strengthening their Look East policy into Act East policy under Narendra Modi policy. They also have the sub-regional corporations, so-called BIMSTECs. They have Mekong Ganga Economic Corporations. And now they ask their think tank to study in depth furthermore on the detail of Blue Ocean economies and Indian Oceans studies. Of course, to build a connectivities in Indian Oceans, like the one China proposed on their prestige Itai Ilu project. Hence, this is the confrontations of superpower. This is the map of GMS project that ADB and Japan drawing a line for us for more than 2 decades already. They also link between mainland ASEAN and maritime ASEAN as well. They come up with the infrastructure development, especially in Cambodia, in Laos, PDR, so-called economic corridor. They have people-to-people connectivity as well as institutional connectivities to support our software in so many areas in terms of education as well. ASEAN University Network work closely with them. Of course, for China, we see a big pictures of Ita-Ilu Belt and Road initiatives. Apart from the confrontations of the superpower outside, among us, there are also some confrontations as well. Dr. Chi already mentioned in the morning sessions that along Mekong River, there are so many conflicts. For example, China, Myanmar, and Laos would like very much to build a big hydropower dam. Of course, Thailand, we cannot build our own dam, but we pay money to buy power from Laos and from Myanmar. But for Cambodia and from Cambodian and from Vietnam perspective, they don't want this kind of thing to block Mekong River, because this will affect their environmental issues, their socio-cultural issues, especially for the southern part of Vietnam, when Mekong Delta will be ruined by the higher level of seawater during the drought seasons. But as you can see, from the topologies from the annual rainfall, in the northeastern part of Thailand, we also would like very much to divert the water flows from Mekong River into our area, because this is the dry zone. Hence, when one country proposes one policy, the negative externalities seems to affect our neighbor countries a lot, especially from the big countries to a smaller countries, especially from a more developed countries to a least developed countries. So we see a lot of opportunities, but there are also a lot of challenges as well. The root cause of these challenges or this trust crisis come from three main reasons. The first one is, of course, the imbalance of power, the fear between strong and weak nations. Of course, China can be considered as a strong nation, right? And sometimes Thailand and Vietnam also considered as a strong nations as well, for the perspective of Cambodia and Laos. And sometimes our investment project, for example, Thai investment project in retail industry in our neighbor countries, of course we employ more people from their countries, we create higher GDP growth, but at the same time, the fear of overtakes their retail business, the fear of overtaking SME business in our neighbor countries also happened. This is the first root cause of the trust crisis, the imbalance of power. Apart from that, of course, the problems of misperceptions, Cold War memories, South China Sea conflict, identity bias, because sometimes PRC or China itself always thinks of Nanyang people, Huaqiao people, or overseas Chinese as their agents to protect China interest. But actually, they stay in our regions for more than 7 decades already. They are no longer Chinese people. They just look like Chinese, but they are Thai, for example. Of course, this thing also happens because in Thailand we also have the group of Viet Kieu people, the Vietnamese born Thai, and sometimes Vietnam government think of them as the agent to protect Vietnam benefits, but actually they are Thai already. This is also happened for the group of Thai ethnics in the borders of Laos, India, and Myanmar as well. Hence, this kind of identity bias is another cause that create trust crisis among us. Apart from that, some countries in our regions seems to be supported either direct or indirect way. There's a lot of influence from outside the superpower, not only China, but I also mean about US, Japan as well. And then the third one, the self-centric mindset. As a supplier, as the producer, we know very well about our market. We know very, very well about our product we produce, but we don't know the demand side. But actually, the international trade is the actions between reciprocal demand, right? Hence, sometimes Chinese product was rejected by domestic product because they don't get along with the preference of the local people, but they try to force to sell this kind of thing. This is also the thing that also happens with the Vietnamese product and Thai product as well. Hence, we may have to learn more about the demand side, not just the supply side. So, to resolve this kind of thing, we conduct our research team travel to so many places and see you guys a lot during the past couple of years, just to do the focus group, in-depth interview. We conduct for more than 70 focus group and interview around this area of mainland ASEAN. We interview more than 200 scholars in this area, and we find this diagram. The interlinkages between international trade and sustainable development. Of course, it starts from this block. Reductions of poverty, inequitable allocations of income. This is the goal. Okay, actually this is the equitable allocation of income. There's typo. This is the end goal. This is the thing we want. Of course, it's concordance with sustainable development goals. It's the thing we would like to see from Vision ASEAN 2025, and it will bring the sustainable development into these regions. However, this block is the domestic affair, and in ASEAN, this is the big issues. We respect our neighborhood domestic affairs. We don't want to intervene our neighborhood domestic affairs. Hence, Thai government cannot say, oh, Laos government, please do something about your income distributions. No, this is the thing that never happens in our countries. Hence, you cannot force your neighborhoods to do this. Arrow number 5. But with a more prudent foreign relations policies, with a more prudent international trade and investment policies that concern more about the externalities that I mentioned earlier, combined with the solid foundations of regional and local SME infrastructural development, Connect FDI project and special economic zone, with a foreign aid that require an indicator that focus more on the quality variable, not the quantitative variables. We can integrate Thailand, China, and Mainland ASEAN into a so-called global value chains. Of course, when you interact at the global value chain level, the actions from one party affect the rest. Hence, the internalizations of externalities will happens. This is the new economic growth engines, a more prudent export-led growth. And this more prudent export-led growth will indirectly affect this untouchable area. And of course, when we do it in a fashion of spiral effect, plus a strategic assistance program of China and Thailand towards connectivities, poverty reductions in neighboring countries, and of course, some kind of people-to-people connectivities, education, and social-cultural linkages. Like Professor Xi mentioned in the morning sessions that Fudan University already initiated youth camp, right? The policy innovative to deal with this kind of thing. This is a very, very good start. Because when you combine these 2+ arrows together, this better cycle will happen. And this is what I'm trying to propose. Next month, in June, there will be an East Asian Forum in Shanghai, I think. I'll work with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Thailand to propose this kind of thing, because they would like to come up with the idea of East Asian blueprint. They're going to have blueprints to govern, to set the directions of East Asian corporations. And hopefully, if we think more about sustainable development, our regions will be regions of opportunities, and the challenges, especially the trust conflict, trust crisis, will be solved. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.